Alrighty, y'all. Welcome to Eli Talks with Eli interviews with. Well, today's a special guest, and I'm here with
Terry Butler,
Terry Butler of.
Inhuman Condition, Obituary, Left to Die, formerly of Death and Massacre.
That's awesome. That's great. How you doing, by the way?
Doing great. We just played a show here in Sacramento. It was an awesome show.
Awesome. Your first time here, right?
Yes, first time here with Inhuman Condition on the West Coast.
Definitely. And this is your first tour with them, or?
It's our third. We did two little small runs up the East Coast and the Midwest earlier this year.
Okay, that's awesome. And I was just wondering, because I just did barely find out about the band because of the tour you were doing with the Side and Calculism, and I was just curious, how did the band became to be?
All right, well, long story short, Jeremy, the drummer, singer, and Taylor, the guitar player, were in a version of Massacre. As usual, it didn't last very long for certain reasons, and they had written 14 songs that were going to be a Massacre record. So when they left, when they quit the band, they took their songs with them, and they contacted me and asked if I wanted to put some bass down on the songs. And for various reasons, I said absolutely. For one, I heard the songs and they were amazing. I'm like, who would not want to be part of this? So, yeah. So that's how it started. And then we recorded the songs, we put the record out ourselves, and it kind of took off, steamrolled, and now we have a second record out. We've done 3 tours, and it's doing well.
Yeah, Fear Sick. That am I right?
The new record is Fear Sick. You can go to Bandcamp and find it, and also the first one, Rat God. Right now we're doing everything totally hands-on. So you check out our social sites. There'll be links to all the stuff. So
definitely, yeah. When I did see the logo though, it did reminded me of your previous band Massacre. So I was like, okay, it has to be like at least one of them.
Well, that's intentional. For one, I wrote the song Inhuman Condition back in the day, and two, we took that font and used it because it just made sense. 3 former Massacre people to have a band, and I wrote that song Inhuman Condition. The band's called Inhuman Condition. We use the same font, and I like to say that we're more Massacre than Massacre. And that's it.
Yeah, definitely. You could just tell. There's not only the music, but like the artwork as well. It's just like it brings back that old school, like '90s style Massacre.
Well, that's intentional. I mean, why would you not want to go back to that? It was a great time period. When the songs were written, it was like let's take a slice of Florida, 1988, which was a great time, and it's just fun. It's thrashy death metal, just like Massacre, just like From Beyond was, just like early Death, and that's what we want to do.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Death, you were part of Death for, I believe. Well, you recorded one album with them, and then
I was in the band. We got in the band right when Scream by the Gore started.
Yeah.
When it was released, we left Massacre. Me, Rick Ross, and Bill Andrews went and united with Chuck, and I was in the band until the end of Leprosy. The end of Spiritual Healing, and it was a great time. It's like 4 years.
That's cool.
Doing a lot of cool stuff, laying the groundwork for future stuff, which was awesome. But at the time, we didn't know that. We were just playing music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have been fortunate. Landed in a lot of cool spots and a lot of cool bands, and I've been on some awesome records. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely. And in my eyes, like when you went back to Massacre after you left Death, I feel like you continue that sound that like was more of that raw.
Yeah.
Not, I want to say sloppy, but like the old school
Just
death metal
straightforward
sound.
old school, yeah. Not super polished, not over Pro Tooled, because for one, there was no Pro Tools then. Yeah, we got the band back together again when Bill and I left Death, and we put out From Beyond, did a couple tours. We put out Inhuman Condition EP and did a couple tours, and then that was it. The band went south. I went into 6 Feet Under for 16 years, then stepped into Obituary for like 12 years on. So
yeah, I was just wondering on how you actually met Chuck Schuldiner. Go ahead.
I very first met him in 1984 or 5, I believe. at a show in Tampa, a band called Nasty Savage were playing a show. We were at a small place called Ruby's. Chuck was walking around with a Mantis demo. He had a sack full of them. I bought the Mantis demo from him. We talked, and then a few years later, I was in Death somehow,
Awesome.
which was great. But yeah, I never thought I would be. So
Definitely. And watching that documentary, Death by Metal, obviously, like, he had, like, issues with, like, personal relationship with others. But I was just wondering, like, you know, towards the end of his life, did everything, like, rekindle between you and him?
no, I mean, I never really talked to him after that. You know, unfortunately, I really never had a situation to really talk to him. But you know, I wish I had. But my time in Death was awesome. We got along great. It just, you know, unfortunately ended the way it did between us. But you know, he went on and put out some amazing records afterwards. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Just, like, the good memories just overweighs the bad memories,
Yeah,
I could see.
sure. Yes.
So, yeah, I was just also wondering, you joined, Chris Barnes' band, 6 Feet Under. How did that came to be?
Well, actually, it was more like Alan West's band.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
I mean, see, I was in there kind of at the beginning. Alan made a demo in '93 with 4 songs on it. He gave me the demo. He said that he wanted me to play bass on it. I said, cool, but I never heard from him for like a year. So then when my brother-in-law, Greg Gall, called me up, he was a drummer. He's like, hey, I'm over here jamming with Alan on some tunes. You want to come over, put some bass on it? Let's hear what it sounds like. Well, when I went over, it was the same songs on that demo tape Alan gave me. So one thing led to another, and we just started rehearsing, and it was 6 Feet Under, you know. So I was kind of there at the very beginning.
That was your main band, like, for a
Well,
while.
for a while, yeah. Like I said, he asked me to play on the demo. I didn't hear from him, but in that time frame, I guess he put a drum machine to it, and you know that's what got him a contract with Metal Blade, whatever.
Okay.
But Chris helped with that, obviously, because he was on Metal Blade with Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
So the band kind of was there at the beginning in '94ish. We recorded that album, and we did a lot of cool things. You know, it was a long time, but it was just kind of time to go. And I had already been helping out Obituary. And I called them up and said, hey, you know, in 2011, I want to offer you my full-time services. And they're like, hell yeah.
Awesome.
Because, I mean, I grew up with those guys. I've known them forever. So
Yeah, that's
it was
cool.
just a natural fit. So
Yeah. So, like, would you say you're still in good terms with Chris Barnes?
I mean, I haven't talked to him in 12 years, so I don't know.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, like, right after, I want to say right after, but your next big band that you would join would be Obituary.
Yeah.
So how did that
Well,
came to be?
like I said, Frank Watkins, the bass player at the time, was fired, and they had some touring to do. They called me up and asked me to do the bass on the tours. I said yes. So, you know, about a year later is when I left 6 Feet, and I called them up and said, hey, I want, you know, basically I'm here if you want me, and they're like, yes. So
Okay.
that's how that came about.
Yeah, and then you've been in the band ever since.
Yeah, full time since 2011, but I was helping in 2010. So
Okay.
yeah.
For sure, and that's pretty amazing. You know, the accomplishments that you have done. You know, with so many legendary death metal, and you know, are you from Florida actually?
Yes.
And that whole scene from Florida. You know.
Yeah.
Are you like, what's like the fondest memory of like during that whole scene for you?
Just watching the scene grow, sprout from a little seed, take off, and produce all these bands that are world-renowned bands. You know, that's awesome. It was a good time back in the mid '80s and the '80s for metal.
For sure, and I was curious about like More Sound Studio and like how was your time being there? And I forget the producer's name, but like, can you tell me a little bit
Burns.
about? Yeah, Scott Burns. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a studio in Tampa that I think some of the early bands went there, like Sabotage recorded there, and Nasty Savage, and these were our heroes. So we wanted to record there too. So once like Death and some of the other early bands started recording there, like Obituary, word got out around the world that, you know, this is the place to go to record death metal, and Scott Burns was the main guy, you know. So it just kind of, it just took off. Everyone wanted to come to Morrisound because that's, you know, that's where everyone was recording.
Definitely, that's cool.
Yeah.
So like, you being from Florida, what's like the one thing that like you miss about, you know, Florida every time you're like on tour or, you know, out of that state?
Probably the climate. I love, you know, I'm a big outside nature dude. I love that, but also just the deadly creatures that could kill you. I love like the alligators, the snakes,
Yeah.
the spiders, the
That's
wasps. Yeah, I love all that.
Yeah.
So
I remember watching an interview, Trey from Orbit Angel, and he's just like somewhere in the
Yeah.
swamp.
Trey, this is a state-of-the-art swamp here. We could only hope that there was a piranha in there, but I don't think there is.
And
well, yeah, there's swamps everywhere. That's where we live. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
What about the food over there? How would you like talk about the food
great.
over there?
I mean, well, we got a lot of different stuff. I mean, I was raised on Southern food because I'm a redneck
Awesome.
from Central Florida. You know, fried chicken, collard greens, you know, black-eyed peas, ribs, cornbread. That's what I was raised on. But also, there's a big Cuban community kind of on the coast in Tampa. So a lot of Cuban food, and there's like a Mexican community too. So
Okay,
yeah, I've had
nice.
all kinds of. But I was raised mainly on the Southern food, soul food they call it. That's great. I love all that. But yeah,
Awesome.
good food definitely.
Yeah. For me, when it comes to the food that's around me, I used to live in the southern part of Sacramento, so that was like overrun by a lot of Asian food.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, I loved Asian food ever since. But now I live where a lot of Mediterranean Greek foods are.
Yeah, I
around.
love Greek food's good too.
Yeah. They're my favorite food right now at the moment.
Yeah. It's good
But
stuff.
I do enjoy soul food, so it's pretty
It's
good
good stuff. Absolutely.
for sure. So like, how you enjoying the tour so far?
The tour's great. This is like show number 8. All shows have been really good, very positive. Yeah, good
For
turnouts.
sure. Yeah. Any fun? I want to say funny stories about Glenn Benton.
Oh no, I mean, you know, Glenn is Glenn. He's larger than life kind of character. So there's always stories with him, you know. But,
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I've talked to Chris from Eternal Bleeding, and like he talks to him nowadays, and he's just more like a family guy.
Mhm.
Like he's more settled. Like he's not like how he used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Glenn a long time, and he's a good guy, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there any like future plans that's going on with any band that you're with?
Well, Obituary is going to South America in September, October. Then we come back. In the States, we have a huge tour with the Monomarth, Carcass, and Cattle Decapitation
Oh yeah.
all over the U.S., and that's in November, December.
Awesome.
We have a new album coming out in January.
Okay.
Obituary,
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that. Big fan. Obviously we're gonna shoot.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So one last thing, why should people care about Inhuman Condition and Obituary, or you? Like, tell the audience why.
Well, I do what I do, and if you like it, you like it. That's great. I don't ever try and beg for any kind of attention, or I don't want beg for people to like my band. Everyone's different. Some people love demo black metal from 1989. That's all they listen to. Some people love thrash. Some people love, prog core metal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, math.
So whatever.
Yeah.
But Human Condition is just it's cool. It's catchy. It's fun. It's nothing that's gonna like NASA has to dissect for you to listen to. It's just good death metal thrash, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Obituary speaks for itself. It's been there forever. It's consistent. It's awesome. It's heavy. It's groovy. I love it. So, if you like those bands, and you're a fan of what I do, come out to the shows. You'll have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.
Right.
With that on Monomarth show.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.